ADVmachines subscribers, head to wind here again. It's been a long time since I've done a video, and thought I'd share one of my latest bits. Buddy of mine that does all my powder coating for me, did the valve cover for the Nissan. It turned out pretty good. The only blemish is this spot right here. Well, not the only blemish, but this one's the most noticeable. It's where there used to be a mount point for the fan and the spark plug wires. There's a little bit of a blemish here, a little blemish here, and then just a little bit of pinholing on the back side of where I welded all this up. It's really hard to get the porosity out of the cast aluminum, especially when you're welding on it. And basically it's the risk that's you got to take when you do those things. The rest of it turned out really nice. I'm going to come back and fly cut machine this off in the mill, and so it'll end up looking like very, very similar to this one right here. So it'll be nice and bright. I'm not going to cut it down as far as I did on this one. I think it takes away from kind of the crispness of the letters. But this one turned out pretty nice, so I'll do a similar thing. Got the exhaust manifold blasted. I got to redo that. Got oil on it, so I got to make sure to get that off of it. Transmission's sitting here waiting for me to jump into it. I got to knock all the nasty off of it and start tearing into it and put the rebuild kit in it. Block is back, and you're wondering, why is it pink? I'm kind of wondering the same thing, but I don't know if at some point in time somebody painted the block pink, but it's on there. It won't come off in the hot tank. We've had it in there twice, so it's pretty much just going to be primer coat, I guess. But she's been decked and bored, and then I also went in and there goes the gasket, but went in and knocked all the flashing off and smoothed out the interior of the block. Crank's been ground and polished and balanced as a full rotating assembly. So the pressure plate, flywheel, all the way forward. And then I did a little bit of modification. I'll show you on the other side. I suppose I should have been a little bit more. But counterbored the feed line as part of the block, half-inch drill bit, and then went in and blended all of this in. So the oil, as it's coming out of the pump and into the filter housing, is less restricted and less turbulent flow. That's kind of been the trend with how I built up this engine. This is also factory pressure relief valve, which I knocked out and threaded for a plug, so that's going to get plugged. And you might wonder, well, what happens if the filter gets plugged? Well, most filters have a bypass valve in them, and then the Wix filters that I run definitely have them, so I don't want this one bleeding past any pressure past the filter. So that's threaded for a plug, as is this one, which normally has a friction fit plug that gets hammered into there. And the same thing on this end of the pressure side on the clean side. So this guy's threaded. I also threaded this hole right here just in case I wanted to put a plug in it and restrict the amount of flow that comes down out of this hole. It's basically when the thermostat's closed, the coolant flows through this end of the head, back down through this hole in the block, flows in through here on the suction side of the water pump. And then the other thing that I did back over. This is a crankcase vent. This is kind of an oil separator. And then stock trim, there's a tin tube that's pressed into here. So I threaded this for an AN fitting, which will be part of my crankcase ventilation system when I get it all ready to go. This is the block drain. And I'm fairly sure that that's where the low side of the turbo water cooling line is going to come in, and the top side is going to come up here to the head where the thermostat housing is. It'll come in on the underside of the thermostat housing, and based upon some recommendations from different turbo manufacturers, the angle of that and everything else is important. So that's going to be another video as I start mocking up the engine. And then this little beast is one of the next pieces to making some powder coated parts cure. So it's bigger than I had wanted. But for free, I'm not going to complain. It has 2 elements in it right now. I'm going to put 2 more elements in it. These elements that are on the side don't work right now. I'm going to put 2 more elements in it, and hopefully that'll be enough, because I need to cure the exhaust manifold ceramic at 750 degrees for an hour. So I need to do some modifications to the control systems. Right now it's intended to be just for powder coating, typically in say 300 to 400 degrees range, and so I need to change the thermostat controllers to a PID and a few other things. But you know, the bones are here, and half the battle of making an oven is here. It's not perfect, but doesn't need to be perfect. It's an oven. So that's pretty exciting. They were doing some remodeling at work, and they were throwing this thing out, which is an exhaust fan. So I grabbed that, and I'm gonna probably, when I get more time, I'm gonna go put it right about there, right above the welding table. So I have an exhaust fan over there. Geez, what else? Oh, so this customer's bike wanted the FH020AA voltage regulator retrofit on the Supermoto, and the Supermoto voltage regulator sits up here just in front of the battery. There's really not enough room to make this one fit. I mean, you can, but it requires a bunch of things that I didn't necessarily want to do. So I redid the factory cable, put this fitting on it so it goes directly into the regulator, and then battery power out comes up along this frame rail, comes up, ground goes directly to the battery like it did from the factory, and then I spliced in into this guy right here. It feeds into the factory location. So that's a cool setup. Made the bracket so that it gets a hold of a bolt hole up top here on the head, and then one down below here by the countershaft sprocket. It's really hard to see it back in there. There's a factory bracket, but I didn't have time or patience, so I just made one. Made a cardboard cutout and went from there. This guy right here. So that's basically what the bracket looks like. Oh, and my daughter got me some of this, which is really nice. So, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and Happy New Year's.